By now you know about CRT and whether it's in your school's curriculum or not. I know the left says it's not, and well, we know that it is in its own way. And I know you know about all the other letters, LGBTQIA and all that stuff. It all spells the word woke, including these three words, ESG. Have you heard those? Well, it's infiltrating so much of our government at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. And in my mind, the fights where this is actually going to be destroyed and won is going to be at the state level. Joining us right now is one of those warriors pushing back on ESG in the state of West Virginia, the state treasurer there, Riley Moore. Mr. Moore, thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me on.
So lay this out. Am I overstating the case? Because ESG, first of all, what does that stand for?
That's environmental social governance.
See, now that sounds so lovey-dovey. I mean, who wouldn't want to embrace that, right? But it's actually quite insidious in how it's being implied.
Yes, essentially, if this thing persists, it will break the capitalist system here in the United States. What it is really, it's coercive capitalism. So it's moving dollars away in a really extortionary manner from industries that the woke capitalists do not like. For instance, like the fossil fuel industry, so coal, gas, and oil. Certainly investments in those seem to probably might be something that we might need right now, a little oil exploration, given the price of energy right now. But that doesn't fit their leftist agenda, obviously. They are trying to transition us all to a renewable green economy, which you cannot replace coal, gas, and oil with, but they're trying their hardest to do that, and we're all paying the price for this social experiment. And a lot of this dollars that are being used in this are actually through your retirement fund. So everybody who has a 401k or a pension fund, you're actually helping subsidize this because you actually many times give over your proxy votes, and then they are using those votes on different boards around the country to push also these leftist agendas and ideas. So Exxon, a great example of where that had happened.
I want to drill down on this because, frankly, I think this is the most insidious aspect. You know, AOC put forth the Green New Deal. It never even got a hearing or a vote in the House of Representatives, but that doesn't matter. That's not the point, because most Americans would think, wow, they want to do all these radical things about moving us to renewable energy and getting rid of coal and gas and oil, and well, they're going to have to vote on that, but they're not. This isn't actually anything that's being legislated, right?
No, this is the Green New Deal because they can't pass it in Congress, but they're doing that in our capital markets by distorting it. So they know they can't pass this at the ballot box, so they're doing this by using our dollars and weaponizing them against us.
How does it get into the system or work its way into the system? Are these nameless, unelected bureaucrats that just decide, listen, we have a piece of legislation here in the state of West Virginia, and it has all these lofty goals, and now here's how we're going to meet those goals by basically upending everything here on how we go about our business?
Well, actually, none of it is legislative. What it is these ESG standards are set by asset managers, by big banks, by rating agencies.
Oh, I see.
Because they control all the capital, they're making all the rules, right? So you have ESG scores on every publicly traded security out there. They all get rated. And if they are rated poorly, because perhaps they might be in the fossil fuel industry, that's where you get your coercive capitalism. The asset managers will not invest in that. They won't acquire those securities. And so now they don't have the money to do things such as oil exploration or pipeline construction for natural gas. So that is the extortive nature of this. And then on top of that, you do have rating agencies such as S&P Global that are now giving ESG scores to the states. So if we don't fall in line with what they want, we're going to actually be punished financially because of the industries we have here in a state like West Virginia, because they're going to lower our bond rating. And by lowering our bond rating, it's going to cost us more money to build schools and hospitals and roads until we comply with their wishes, which we will not comply in the state of West Virginia, I can tell you that.
Well, and so this, I mean, it sounds like it's a handful of people who work their way onto corporate boards with an agenda, and they just start implementing their will on those corporations. Is it? I mean, that sounds rather nefarious, frankly.
Well, it really is. And a great example of this, and I touched on just briefly, was the vote last year with Exxon. So Exxon, a number of board members that had been installed there due to the shares that BlackRock had, and through Engine One, were able to pass on the board a vote that lowered oil production by 20% and increased green energy investment by 20%. I bet we could probably use a little bit of that oil production right about now, couldn't we?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's how they do that. They take over these boards, and it's through these proxy votes that they're handed over through our pension funds, through 401ks and things like that. 25% of all votes cast for every publicly traded company in the United States are done by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard.
And of course, these are international corporations or multinational corporations, so oftentimes they're beholden to the wishes of maybe the EU or other international bodies that don't have a say here, right? Doesn't that come into play?
Or more like China, right? Because all of these folks operate in China. BlackRock is the only company that is a wholly owned subsidiary that the Chinese government does not have interest in that operates in China. China, by the way, is building 55 brand new coal-fired power plants right now as we speak, which doesn't seem to be an issue for these woke capitalists, but coal production here in the United States, that happens to be a big problem. So I see, obviously, huge hypocrisy in that. Secondly, you got to remember that the S in the ESG, the social, talks about things like human rights. Well, China's running a concentration camp full of Uyghurs right now that are building products with slave labor. Doesn't seem to be an issue for these folks. It just happens to be right here in the United States.
How do they, I'm always fascinated with how a hypocrite rationalizes these things. How does a board member at one of these major corporations sort of put the thumb down there on the people of West Virginia that they're having some issues with human rights, and yet look the other way in China? Do they have a sliding scale of human rights depending on what flag is flying over the country?
Oh, Larry, you got to understand, they're a developing economy. This is a developing country. China's developing.
Oh, right.
I guess when they become developed, we'll all be speaking Mandarin at that point. So we got to get away from this. And it really is a sad state of affairs that these are American companies with any lack of patriotism or loyalty to their own people.
So that's, in a way, that's almost like a patronizing attitude. It's like, well, it's China, and as you say, a developing country. We don't expect much from them. Of course, they're going to enslave people and have concentration camps because, you know, they're not like us. They can't rise to the level of Western Europe or the United States. That's kind of condescending and frankly dangerous.
Well, and that condescension is going to be our own destruction because China is going to end up overtaking us if we continue down this path. China must be watching what's happening in the United States and Europe as it relates to particularly energy production. They couldn't have planned it out any better, but we're just doing it to ourselves.
Riley Moore, State Treasurer of West Virginia, we're kind of solutions oriented here. Frankly, I bet there are some people watching this haven't even heard of ESG, didn't even realize this was happening. So tell me in our final minute here, what can be done? What should people be doing and demanding from their state government?
Well, first of all, what you need to have your state government do is what we have done here in West Virginia. We created the restricted financial institution list. So if you have a prohibition on lending to the fossil fuel industry, you are ineligible for contracts with the state government of West Virginia, and that's all state government of West Virginia, DMV, so on and so forth, university system. We have to pull capital from these folks. We have to leverage our capital to protect our interests, our equities, our jobs, and our economy.
Well, we'll leave it there, and we'll explore this conversation even further in the weeks to come, as it's something that's now on our radar and certainly should be on the American people's radar. In the meantime, Riley Moore, State Treasurer of West Virginia, thanks for joining us. You know, the upshot here is that more people are going to move to West Virginia, sir, so you better get ready for that.
It's the land of freedom. Come join us.
Well, more to come tonight. Keep it here. It's O'Connor Tonight.